Welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Dobbenmeyer, and I am a professor at San Francisco State University in Holistic Health Studies. We teach Western and Eastern perspectives of holistic health. And we're offering this series on staying healthy during the pandemic as we shelter together in place. And we've had various speakers come from inside and outside the university. So it's been a great learning experience and very rich to have these different speakers coming today. So I'm really happy to introduce our speaker today, who's joining us from her home, I'm sure, like all of us are at home or at work. And Acharya Shunya, it's just real my pleasure, my delight, my honor to really welcome her here to be with us at San Francisco State University. Acharya Shunya is a Vedic teacher, a teacher of Ayurveda. She comes from a family lineage of these teachings, which is very precious. You know, in ancient times, this is how knowledge was transmitted in India, and she's from a family that's maintained that lineage. And so it's really a great blessing to have her here with us today. She's a best-selling author. This is one of her latest books, if you can see that, Ayurveda Lifestyle Wisdom. I've been learning from it myself and her students over the years. She is a founder of Vedika Global, a school that teaches about Vedic spirituality and health principles in Ayurveda. She trains students in a certificate program who are able to go off and be lifestyle coaches around the globe. And what else? So she is also an advisor to the government of India in the Ministry of Health on Yoga and Ayurveda. So she's really regarded and esteemed as an expert in Ayurveda and the Vedic traditions. So with that, I just really wanted to give you a warm welcome, Acharya Shunya. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Jennifer and I go back a few years now. Jennifer truly has really led her work in the field of holistic sciences from East and West. And if not I personally, but my students have been visiting her department, teaching there, and she has visited my school. So it just really feels really special right now to be addressing this newly started series by you. So thank you for inviting me and for saying such nice words about me. So my name is Acharya Shunya. Acharya is my title. If you want to call me by my name, you are welcome to call me Shunya. And without spending any further time in meet and greet, which we have done, I would like us to just move along. And we're going to move backwards in time to an ancient time in India. We're looking at about 5,000 years ago. And at that time, there were these special class of people who lived in India, and in Sanskrit, which is the language of the ancient Indian people, we call them rishis and rishikas. These are both men and women. And they created a body of knowledge known as the Vedas. It's probably the first documented knowledge that's available in written form that also had contribution from not only male seers, but female seers. So it's very special to me. And this wisdom was not religious per se, it was universal, it was spiritual. It dealt with everything from strategy in war, and is it dharmic, righteous or not, all the way to how can we achieve self-actualization in our family life, at our workplace, how can we be successful, how can we self-realize and find God, not just outside us, but inside us in a higher consciousness. And these people created two beautiful sister sciences. One of them you are very familiar with, which is yoga. And yoga is not just body movement, though that's an important part of it, but yoga is a whole philosophy. It's a whole way of life, of mastery of mind over matter. how we can, achieve ascended states of consciousness in the mind. And then its sister science is Ayurveda. They have the same parents, which is the Vedas, but Ayurveda likes to deal more with the body. But it would be a misnomer to say, well, Ayurveda is about the body, yoga is about the mind. Because if you go deeper into both these sciences, they actually meet together and they talk about each other in the ancient texts that I teach and translate and write about. So they really work together. And in the ancient wisdom schools, I have more of a modern school with students worldwide thanks to technology. But in the ancient schools, these sciences were co-taught together for a really holistic view of humanity, to be prepared for exactly the kind of times we are dealing with right now, as such as the pandemic. And the shelter in place really gives us an opportunity to shelter into wisdom, and the really deep wisdom, tried and tested, not just on lab or animals, but on human beings in a civilization that has, in which these sciences, the Vedic medicine of Ayurveda and its and its spiritual lifestyle, yoga, never really fell out of use. This is why it's a great tradition. Something like Chinese medicine is a great tradition. We don't know when it began, and it never really had a period when it was not existing. In the same way, Ayurveda is a great tradition. It is an uninterrupted, broken tradition. And if you go to India, you can actually study Ayurveda in pretty much from private teachers to medical schools. You can go to dispensaries, clinics, five-star hospitals. Ayurveda is as alive as possible in the urban India, in the modern India. And then if you go to every home, right down to the smallest far off village, and you find a granny there, and what are you cooking? Well, I'm cooking this special recipe because my grandson has a sniffle or diarrhea or cold, or my daughter-in-law wants more beautiful skin. She's broken out into acne since childbirth. So they know recipes, they know herbs, they know when to eat what, because there was this connection with seasons. Human beings were not given this cookie cutter approach. It was the first personalized medicine known to humanity. And I'm so grateful that a couple of weeks ago, when the pandemic was just out and I was receiving numerous emails and panic calls and requests from various organizations to come and speak here and there, because I've pretty much been on a roll teaching about Ayurveda, yoga, and pandemics on podcasts, on organizations, institutions, my own school. So what I did was I took out some time and put together a booklet that I believe Jennifer will be sharing with all of you. And at this point, in the short time that we have, this is no short time, we'll just make it the best time possible. I'll just give you a very high level understanding so that you can benefit from that booklet. Say you were drawn to that science that got my heart and my intellect, because like all of you, I was born in the 1960s in India. Though I have a traditional ancient family, I was, growing up when India was changing. I went to a school where I learned about Macbeth and, Louis Pasteur. And so I needed to be convinced that the science works. It was not like I was necessarily skeptical or nasty about it, but it was like I had all the modern question marks that I have. And I want to tell you that I've come into this science not just from faith or karma, because I was born in a family, but through sheer intellect and reasoning. And I became convinced that this is an amazing science. It has a lot of science. It may not be explainable as per Western paradigm of science, but as Jennifer will explain, and I'm sure she talks about it, there are many different self-standing paradigms of science, and Ayurveda has its own. And in ancient days, it looked at substates of matter, not just the matter that we can see, but it talked about, nanostates of matter, invisible matter, then coagulates to become what we can see. So it's amazing. It talks about the invisible states of matter. And then it talks about this matter combining to become invisible forces in the body called doshas. And these doshas are now of three types. Dosha means that which are sensitive, that can get disturbed, because these forces live within us from first day of birth till the end of life. And they react to, say, I drink chilled water or hot water. Do I have a bad, conversation with my colleague or a harmonious one? Is the season on time, or is it too dry when it should be raining? It's too wet when it should be dry. All these outer changes influence the microcosm. The macrocosm and the microcosm are connected, and these doshas live outside also, and they live inside also. And in this class, I can't go deeper into the science, but there's a whole science why we are connected. But in short, there are three kinds of doshas, and they do three different things. One dosha is known as Vata dosha, V-A-T-A, and this is the dosha related to movement. So from my speech, my hands moving, my eyelids closing, my breath, autonomic functions and functions we are aware of, movements, everything right down to the movement of cell, cell division, everything, movement of nutrition through the body, everything is being controlled by Vata dosha. But when things move outside, as in we are moving on we're driving, or there's too much social media, we are browsing, any kind of movement outside also influences this. And when this movement gets too much, we might develop twitches, cramps, pain, or even our thoughts cannot be in a sequential manner, and we might experience anxiety. Then really quickly, there is another dosha known as Pitta, and it's a fiery dosha. It helps us metabolize emotions, stress, digest food, and it gets influenced by the temperature of the sun, the foods we eat, the spices in our food, and even if we live in hostile and conditions in our home or at work, because constant hostility, anger coming our way, domestic violence, anything, all of that can really disturb the Pitta dosha, P-I-T-T-A, in our body. The third dosha, which is really important right now to overcome corona, is known as Kapha dosha, K-A-P-H-A. And this Kapha dosha is kind of like a watery, moist, cloudy, heavy kind of force within the body. It has a glue-like activity. So when it's functioning fine, it beautifully moistens our joints. It gives our skin a glow. It gives our hair a natural sheen without needing a conditioner. It makes our eyes not need like artificial eardrops. Everything stays lubricated, soft, glued up together. And actually, it is also the source of immunity. And in mind, it gives us endurance, patience, because without that, we have too much wind and too much fire. And so as a result, we can get too agitated and too irritated, which we wouldn't want. And it is this watery, gluing, heavy, steadying force that actually allows us to say, is that right? Well, I have a different opinion, and walk away, with our head held high and our blood pressure under control, because it doesn't allow things to get to us. It's almost like a soft blanket. So I'm using, we have medical terms, okay? For example, this soft blanket-like experience is called snehana. It's a whole science, but I was informed by Jennifer that pretty much anybody is welcome to this forum. So I'm keeping it almost artistic, creative, dramatic. So just bear with me. I teach at universities, I teach to practitioners, and then I teach, to, real beginners. So I'm using that language right now. Now, when all is working with this third dosha, good, we will have good strength. Even if we can't sleep a certain day, we'll just go through life pretty good. It'll hold us together. But there is a connection of this dosha with the spring, which is just still kind of here, slowly fading away. And so during the spring, it naturally builds up, and we naturally have, skin irritation, itchiness, itchy eyes, phlegm in the back of our throat, sneezing, hay fever. And we call it, what people call allergies, we call kapha melting. And we say, oh, all that kapha is coming out. Now, this kapha in health keeps our respiratory system really healthy. But when we are eating too, because like increases like is another cardinal formula, macrocosm, microcosm connected, and like increases like. So there are certain foods also which are more vata, like they constantly move, like popcorn. There are foods which are more fiery and pitta increasing, like chilies or ginger or garlic. And then there are foods that are kapha increasing, like a big solid banana or yogurt, which is thick and creamy, dairy, um, cheesecake at night, things like that. A big quantity of good food, all of that makes you sleepy, all that increases kapha. So spring season increases kapha. Just like in spring, everything is oozing, right? Have you seen grass and flowers? Everything is like filled with rich, gluey juiciness. That's why spring is so beautiful. But somebody like myself can say kapha. Kapha in the grass, kapha in the pollen, kapha everywhere. And then when we eat very rich, deliciously tasting food, but it's creamy, it's thick, it's juicy, it's sweet, it's rich, it's rubbery, then all of that will increase kapha. What does that have to do with the coronavirus? Well, during spring season, sometimes this kapha can build up and our respiratory system can already be a bit compromised with excessive kapha. This will lower our immunity specifically to any pathogen, be it a bacteria, be it a virus that attacks specifically the respiratory system according to Ayurveda. That is why worldwide, I'm not the only teacher of Ayurveda, thankfully, worldwide, teachers of Ayurveda worldwide, beginning with India, beginning with the Ministry of Ayurveda, we have a whole ministry of Ayurveda in India, beginning with colleges, universities, professors, teachers like myself, speakers, my students, they're all teaching the same thing: eat a kapha balancing diet. You don't have to negate it completely, but you can make better choices which don't aggravate your kapha right away. And then if you can invest in some turmeric powder, which I talk about in the booklet, and you get up in the morning and you just swallow, if you're full grown, then you can take up to half teaspoon. Otherwise, the only thing with turmeric is it makes you lose weight if you take it on a regular basis. If you're too thin, go for 1/4 teaspoon, but otherwise take half teaspoon. So it's a good thing for people who want to lose weight. My husband has been taking it for 2 months and he's lost 8 pounds without even trying. It's just the turmeric, okay? So you take it first thing in the morning. Now, turmeric is a spice. We all know about it. I would love to come back and do a whole class on turmeric, but turmeric is the best, antiviral, antibacterial, antiseptic known to nature. That is why there is a lot of research going on between authorities in America and authorities in India. They are collaborating on turmeric. That's why there's so much, usage of turmeric that has increased worldwide. You want to just swallow that turmeric first thing in the morning. Plop, that will reduce the kapha, even if you had potatoes and a heavy meal last night, which increases kapha. So this booklet is going to be super useful to you in terms of do's and don'ts. I don't think I have that luxury right now to go through each list. And this is where I feel like, boom, so good that I already wrote that booklet and it's there for you. It also gives you a symptom checklist, which will allow you to know if your kapha is more, not only the obvious symptoms of or constantly like needing to, sneeze or wipe your nose. You might even have got yourself tested, you are negative, fine, but don't just be happy you're negative. Make sure that your kapha is not giving you any symptoms. And some of the symptoms can be increased sleepiness. I wonder if any of you have just this drowsiness, this desire to take a nap. One reason could be because we're at home, but I work in my garden, I work on my books, I answer my phone calls and my emails. I don't feel sleepy. But if my kapha increases, I could just, fall asleep even in a meeting. And then tiredness, achiness in the body. So you go through those lists, and if you feel your kapha is increased, you just take that kapha balancing diet. The advantages would be you might lose some 1 or 2 pounds here or there. you'll feel light, your tongue will clear up, your throat will clear up. And so those will be the advantages, and we believe that it will give you immunity. I definitely would not say that just because you're following Ayurveda or you got excited by it or you read my book, Ayurveda Lifestyle Wisdom, you're home safe. I still wash my hands. I still stay at home. I haven't stepped out of my house for 2 months now, except to walk my very insistent Labradoodle. But that's about it. I don't do anything else. So you want to follow the law and follow all the recommendations that you are getting, the most common sense ones. But if you want, you can experiment with Ayurveda, and that will help you. Some of the lifestyle things that help pacify Ayurveda is staying active and not sleeping after eating, because when you rest, increases, like any excessively sedentary activity increases the dosha, which is maximally sedentary. So you fall asleep, your kapha increases. You take a walk, your kapha reduces. So try and stay active. And there is one suggestion given by our ancient texts. These are really ancient texts, and they say, if nothing else, walk 100 steps. So my dad is 85 plus back home in India. So I told him, Dad, you can't leave the house. Can you just even walk around the dining table? And he's like, hey, Shunya, I walked 200 steps. I'm like, good for you. But this is amazing because, touch wood, I have to say, I'm talking about superstition, but really, is this science that's working? Because, I have so many students, I can't keep account. We're all following this, and everybody seems to be on the better end of their health. So I hope that this will be helpful for you. Keep moving. Don't sleep right after meals. Eat early meals. This would be a very major recommendation. The biocircadian rhythm is a very important concept of Ayurveda. I know that recently, a Nobel Prize was given out for the discovery of the biocircadian rhythm. I'm happy that it brings it to the world stage, but it also makes me wonder, because there are these ancient sciences that are built around the biocircadian rhythm. The ancient rishis had not only documented it, discovered it, but they tell you minute by minute what effect it has upon the body, the brain, the gut. And so one of the best teachings that I could give you at this point is, if you could eat by 5:30 p.m. and be done. This is one of the best ways. So before you go to bed around 10, if you could eat a good 5 hours earlier, and if you feel hungry, only sip on warm water, or at the most, swallow a tablespoon of raw honey, because raw honey, unprocessed, uncooked raw honey, locally sourced, I'm sure you all have it. And according to Ayurveda, the older, the better, because it is one of those natural, botanically sourced ingredients that as it sits, it ripens more and more. So these are some of the teachings from Ayurveda. So for example, I would eat by 5:30, latest 6, but I like to eat when it's still light. And then I would just drink a warm cup of water and take a tablespoon of honey, and I'm done, and I can go to bed. And I wake up and my lungs are free. My nasal passages are open. I know I have followed a really ancient rec science that has worked and worked and worked for thousands of years. I'm not damaged myself. I'm not being irresponsible. I'm also following all the corona guidelines from the government, and I'm doing what it takes. But these little small lifestyle and food adjustments can go a long way. Similarly, in the booklet, I have suggested certain pulses like the green gram, also known as the mung, which is very helpful. Some pungent things like ginger and garlic will be more useful than, just because it's warm, just suddenly drinking a whole can of sweet juice. Anything that's overly sweet, overly sour, fermented, heavy, rich, ice cream, cold juices, shakes, just hold on. Let it get nice and hot and dry. For now, maybe for 1 month more, let us just follow these recommendations and you will feel, I think, very happy. I can't guarantee anything. That's not my place to do. But I can share with you what I know that has helped people. If Corona didn't exist in the ancient times, the scriptures don't say, we call them scriptures, but they're not holy books. They are ancient texts. So these ancient texts don't say, well, here is what you do for Corona. But this is where we use our logic or reasoning to say, well, here is an agent that compromises the respiratory system. So what can we use? What are the measures that strengthen the respiratory system? So what I'm giving you is not cure. What I'm suggesting to you is prevention. And while you're doing this, just in case you have a tendency towards allergies or hay fever, you might have some additional benefit anyway. So this is the time I had set for myself to talk about the food and lifestyle aspect of Ayurveda. Now I want to talk to you that Ayurveda is yoga's sister science, and yoga is all about the mind. But let me tell you that Ayurveda doesn't just sit there and outsource the entire the question of mental resilience or healthy emotions, or cultivating positive attitudes to yoga. It has its own in-depth psychology, so much so that we teach about Ayurveda psychology and Vedic psychology, and it works with the mind. And I wanted to take this opportunity to share about, to maybe lead you through a guided meditation. And I will be using some Ayurvedic terminology, maybe not the Sanskrit, but just the words. So I invite you to be restful. And one way to do that is by closing your eyes, because we can't close all the five senses, because the moment we calm down our senses, there is an introversion that happens. And according to Ayurveda and yoga and all the Vedic sciences, true life principle within us is known as Atma. In Sanskrit, it is a Sanskrit word. Atma literally means that which is boundless. So there is something that is boundless, boundlessly healthy, boundlessly peaceful, boundlessly joyful within you. And you don't have to believe me, you know that. Because when you got tired and pushed in a corner in life, when things got really difficult and you got tired trying to control it, plan it, manipulate it, and when you let go, you closed your eyes, you touched your heart, and you went inwards, you felt rejuvenated. You couldn't sort a certain life problem or even a math problem. You went to bed, and in deep sleep, we say you go deeper and deeper inwards. Well, when you come back, you often have a solution or at least enthusiasm to tackle it again. So any trip inwards leads to rejuvenation, whereas outwards, we spend all that energy or power that we gather from within. That's why nature, according to Ayurveda, has inbuilt us that after several hours of waking and in between state of dream, we go deep into deep sleep. And for those few minutes, even when our dreams are not there, we are just resting in our own true self. We feel relaxed. So we're gonna go visit that self, okay? Let's close our eyes. Give yourself that permission. Tell yourself, I'm going to visit my own true self. It is always there for me. I have Atma, something that is boundless, something that is peaceful, something that is not demanding, something that is not feeling discontent. It is always content. It is fine as it is. And according to yoga and Ayurveda, myself was always there even before I took on this body. It expresses itself through the body. It shall outlive this body. And in fact, I share this self with everything and everyone. The butterfly has this self. The bumblebee has this self. The beautiful roses have this self. Everything has the same self. We may have different bodies and minds, but I'm resting in this collective oneness, this supreme consciousness that the ancient Vedas first talked about, this non-dual wisdom. I am going inwards to meet the source that is a life source of all beings. Here, all differences end. The differences of color, sex, gender, race, class. end. There is only a simplicity here. Deep here, all the intelligence lives. It is from here that I grew from a single-celled embryo into an entire being, a thinking, reasoning, logical, speculative being. But this intelligence that I experience in here is pure wisdom. It is here that pure health exists. I think my DNA is intelligent, my gene is intelligent, my doshas are intelligent. No matter which system you encounter, Western or Eastern, Chinese, Indian, doesn't matter. There is intelligence that we evidence. But this self is a source of that intelligence. It just is. It is here that my health lives. Because though I think I reclaim health with herbs and exercise and yoga and meditation, really it is something that emerges from within me. It is my innermost state. That is why we say, Aham Arogyam, I am health. I am meeting this self, and it is not far from me. It is not something that lives in a distant heaven. It is not something I have to die and meet. It is not something I have to change my religion, my food, become vegan, vegetarian, Hindu, Buddhist, does not matter. It just is that state of pure consciousness, expanded awareness, true health, well-being, and of course it is empowering. Just few minutes, 1 minute, few seconds of guided interaction is enough for me to return, experiencing myself more whole. I will return just in a minute. Let me bathe in my own true self. Let me become acquainted with this inner center. Let me experience pure love for myself in time of great calamity to my planet. Experience yourself flowing love and blessing to all beings. Who knows if there are beings in other parts of this universe that we have not yet charted through our technology, which is still learning and growing. Who knows if they have some challenges, but we all share the same self. That is why in the ancient Veda it says, Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. That may all beings in all universes. There was a concept of multiple universes, the concept of expanding and collapsing universes. All of this is in the Vedas. So may all beings in all universes in parallel dimensions with whom I share the same expanded self be peaceful, have well-being, and you have a vote in this because you are not separate from this allness. Just like there is beauty and health in nature right now around you due to spring, let that beauty be yours, but not its phlegm. You can make that resolution. You can at this point choose health. I welcome you back. You've not made a trip very far, just to your own heart. It is said in the Vedas that this Atma, that is Sarvagataha, all-pervading, also lives within your own heart. And it is the same self that lives in all beings. Therefore, who is separate? Who is an enemy? Who is a friend? Even a friend is a reminder of our true self, and the so-called the criticizer, the difficult person, is ultimately a friend because they lead us back to find resources within ourselves. I hope you enjoyed and appreciated this trip within. I based it not upon some voodoo teachings. These are ancient, deep teachings, the science of the self, the non-dual wisdom, the first non-dual teachings of the world, and systematic exposition to reach that non-dual state and then come back and live as moms, dad, bankers, professors, artists was the teaching of the ancient Vedas. And in Ayurveda, it is said clearly, first we must achieve emotional health, because unless we are emotionally self-validating, we can't even eat right. Then we must have physical health. And with physical and emotional health, we must not stop until we reach the pinnacle of spiritual health. And what is that? And then the ancient Ayurveda texts say, I reach that state of extreme health when I recognize myself in all beings. And then it goes on to say, even that little ant is not different from you. So it's a state of unconditional expansiveness, love, consciousness, evolution of our understanding of oneness, and a greater flow that Ayurveda wants us to have. So in this time of the virus, one of the things I have been doing is I've been coming to peace even around the virus existing. I'm not saying, why do you exist on the face of the earth when I am here? I'm now accepting a greater math, and I'm doing what I need to do. Just like recently, I'm a gardener. Recently, I had a snail infestation, and I believe in ahimsa or non-violence. So I didn't use chemicals to kill them. I and my husband would get up early morning. We are early risers, and we would pick hundreds and hundreds and thousands of snails, talk to them, love them, put them in a box, carry them to a wilderness, and help them find a new house and a new home. And we studied on what kind of leaves they like, what kind of habitat they like. So we got in touch with a species. I feel like this coronavirus is helping us go home, come to classes like this one, step up in our wisdom, in our collective action, and in our consciousness. I have a feeling personally, and I'll stop with this, that whenever we've seen this, whenever we hit a difficulty and you'll accept it in your own life, at that time it feels like, oh no, it's something against me, but there is always a growth afterwards. And we've all had those individual lessons. Now we're having collective lessons. And it's a strange way, in this collective learning, at last we experience that oneness that Ayurveda talks about and shows us the way. So with this, I'd like to conclude my talk, and it leaves me in a perfect good shape to have a few minutes of conversation with you. If Jennifer wants to jump in and say something, or a question that you might want to bring up to me. Jennifer, I'm really proud of my time management skills nowadays.
Yeah, I am too. That was very wonderful. Thank you so much for taking us on this journey back in time with the rishis to the present day, how we can manage our health during the spring season, and also take some time to go within and realize our connection to life, and even viewing this coronavirus as a wake-up call, as an invitation to think about how we can further heal ourselves and heal each other and our planet.
Yes.
I'd like to open it up to some questions or comments.
Thank you so much for inviting me. So I was a previous student of Jennifer's last semester and the year before. And actually I got this invitation through, I think, my department, which is geography and environment. And so I really appreciate the fact that everything is teaching about interconnectedness, because I truly believe in, like, the health of the self is interconnected with the health of the environment and the world. And your speech was just so beautiful. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Samantha.
Yeah, that's a great example of just how Shunya coming is kind of bringing us together across departments in the university.
My privilege.
Thank you.
I think someone asked in the chat where your school is.
My school is everywhere now. Our headquarters is right here in the Bay Area, but our courses are now taken by people worldwide. So at some point, we made the shift from like just one physical location to now courses being taken via technology everywhere. I have students in every continent at this point. Yeah.
And what would be the best website to reach you at?
You can put my name there, acharyashunya.com. It's more frequently updated, but you can also go to vedikaglobal.org. That's a .org. And so either website will lead you somewhere. You'll find out what you need to. I'm also, thanks to my team of volunteers, active on social media. You can find me there also.
Okay. Okay, great. See, bless
I wanted to say this, Samantha, that if you dig around, I gave a lecture on environmental teachings of Ayurveda. There's and I'm right now writing a blog for a very prestigious site. They have invited me to do that. But there's all these deep teachings on environmental and eco-consciousness. And there was warning about pandemics 2,000 years ago. So if you could, I don't remember where this uploaded, but if you look around my website, you might find it. You might find that of interest. So this eco-consciousness and there was a discussion around how we have to have this consciousness around our geography, because tied up with our seasons and the soil and the pollution. And so it's a beautiful web we've woven of self-deception, and now we need to get real around our health collectively. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I think we had one question from Blessing here in the chat. It says, how can people learn about the ideal kapha foods for this time?
Aha, by downloading the booklet.
Okay.
If I hadn't written this booklet, it would have been hard for me to really give you this high level journey that I could. But because it's in the booklet, every page will answer your questions. Yeah. And then my book, if you want to source the book, you can find that. Yeah.
Ayurveda Lifestyle Wisdom. Okay.
Hi, Jen. I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, hi, Uma. Wonderful. Acharya Shunya, this is one of our other faculty. Uma, she teaches Chinese medicine courses, and she teaches Intro to Asian Perspectives, including some Ayurveda.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I have so much respect for Chinese medicine, and I'd love to meet up with you at some point, because
We met at the Ayurvedic conference in UC Berkeley many years ago.
We have met. Oh, wonderful. We have to meet again then. Yeah.
If there's time for another question here, it says, is it necessary to have one's doshas identified through pulse to know the best diet?
No, you have to look at your symptoms. So this typology, let's figure out our dosha and then let's balance it. That's a whole different, situation. I don't go there. The traditional teaching is you should eat seasonal foods, whether you know your doshas or not. You should just stick more to seasonal foods. And then if your symptoms show more of kapha aggravation, vata or pitta, then temporarily, not forever and ever, temporarily you should eat those foods. So my recommendation is, when you download that booklet, I've given excuse the Sanskrit. Sometimes I tend to be like a professor and add all those technical terms, but you'll get in very simple English also, what are your symptoms? If you check a lot of them, then temporarily, not 100%, but 50 to 70%, you can incorporate more of the kapha pacifying foods. And once those symptoms go away, come back to more of the seasonal balanced foods. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
I would add that you can certainly do pulse diagnosis and tongue diagnosis, and you can tweak what foods you should be eating depending upon your constitution and also what's going on outside in terms of the climate. So
absolutely. And then go to someone like you probably for a pulse analysis, right?
Yeah, these days, of course, with telemedicine, you have to be a little more detailed.
Right.
And the tongue is
if you can get some customized help, that would be your next step. Absolutely. More personalized.
A question from another one of our esteemed professors, Dr. Eric Pepper, who's been a faculty here for about 40 years. He's during the call, and he was wondering if we could repeat the recommendation for turmeric. How much?
Okay, it is in the booklet, but I will be happy to repeat. If you are already quite thin, like you were actually trying to gain weight, I would only stick with 1/4 teaspoon or even 1/8 teaspoon in the morning, and just do it routinely with warm water, not cold water. First thing in the morning, and then give it 10-15 minutes before you drink your chai or tea or coffee or whatever you do. If you can, at bedtime, you can also mix it with some warm water and gargle, a turmeric gargle at bedtime. This is the two things I would like you to do, and you're good to go. Yeah.
Okay. And you're not necessarily recommending capsules, right? But just the raw spice.
So we have this concept of rasa, which literally means taste. So we like the tongue to experience things. So unless you have turmeric is not too bad tasting. So I prefer putting it on the tongue, because then you know it. You're a professor, the tongue and brain talk. Yeah.
I would add also, you would want it to go sublingually. So that's why putting it into some hot water and drinking it like a Chinese decoction, or like, Kvata or other Ayurvedic decoctions is a good way to go.
That would even be better. If you don't swallow it straight is for everybody. But if you can make a decoction, then you're
Even
upping
hot
your
water, garam pani?
garam pani.
Garam pani.
Very nice. Yes.
One clarification question: what is meant by seasonal? Is this depending on temperature and characteristics of the season?
Oh, thank you for asking.
Or what foods are available?
Okay, yeah. So according to Ayurveda, we have 6 seasons, and really there are these 4 main seasons, like spring, summer, fall, winter, and then we have in between seasons, late summer, early summer, and so we have 6, and early winter, late winter. If you really want to go into the classical way, I would recommend you get my book. And I believe right now from audibles.com, you're getting a free offer. So you could download it free. I'm very proud of the list because it is classical. It is from the ancient texts, and because I have been teaching and working for more than 2 decades in California and in America all over. So it matches, the recommendations here. So when I mean seasonal, when I mean what is seasonally growing, that would be like a very basic level. But really, in our ancient texts known as Ashtanga Hridayam Bhav Prakash, all the way from 1st century BCE to 16th century, we have texts. In that, we have specific recommendations. Eat this, don't eat that. Eat this, don't eat that. Or eat more of something. So when I use the word seasonal, I didn't know I'll get to be able to have this deeper Q&A with you. But really, seasonal means Ayurveda's seasonal recommendations. You have resources right there, with Professor who will teach you how to go in details with, Ayurveda, or you can pick up my book and go deeper. That was what I would mean by seasonal. But right now, if you were to download the booklet, the recommendations I have made in it would at least last you till the end of this month for sure, for sure.
This is kind of related. I'm just going to read this question by JC. Could you please deepen our understanding a little more around our diets and what we should be eating based on our geographic locations and what grows naturally, what is available at the grocery store? So I think that's kind of a similar.
Right. So when you go wherever you live, if you can incorporate, so this is where I have to give you a general level teaching. Wherever you live, if you can incorporate in your traditional cuisine, you don't have to eat Indian food, in your cuisine, a little more bitter vegetables, bitter greens, okay? A little more pungent things. You can't eat a bowl of pungent things, but grate a little ginger or a little garlic, more than usual, what you can tolerate. It shouldn't burn you up either. So add a little more bitter. Bitter is number 1 taste. That is anti-kapha. Pungent would be good too. And astringent you can't really get on its own. It's a secondary taste. So try to add more bitter greens is what I would say, and you're good to go. Eat your meals early and avoid, or if you're going to have dairy, say you like a cup of milk, Okay, fine, boil it and add turmeric to it. So there are some, this way you can, because turmeric is a high quality bitter. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a general rule
Okay.
wherever you live.
So, and then once the summer comes, we'll definitely need to get your book to read about what to do.
Yes, because every season has some recommendations. And what I've done is in the past, I've challenged people to say, okay, can you follow this 70 to 80% for one whole year? That's all you do. Don't take any herbs, do nothing, just follow the seasonal recommendations of the ancient texts. When people did that, they found an improvement in all their challenges, because by eating this way, because doshas are connected to seasons, without you knowing it, you're balancing your doshas. Because come summer, pitta, the fiery dosha, and vata, because of the dryness, increases. So they get balanced if you eat according to the recommendations. So different doshas will get balanced. And you know, Jennifer, in India, people didn't get to study Ayurveda, right? The villagers followed it. So the way people like my Baba, my lineage would teach, would not even be this savvy. We would say something like, come summer, look at the things that are growing. These are sweet, these are juicy, so this is what you need. And people would get healthy. We would teach very basic, common sense, eyeball kind of, understanding. Hey, it's a really dry climate, look for the juicy things. If it's already very moist, look for drying and heating things. So this is how we balance the 5 elements, so to say.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, on that note, I think we will leave it at that. So thank you so much for your time spending this hour with us. Really appreciate having you, and maybe we can, in the future, figure out how to do something again to continue the conversation.
Thank you. My joy, and wonderful meeting all your colleagues. Thank you so much. Take care.